Carter has arrived. So I'm going to recognize him for 5 minutes of questioning. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate y'all waiting on me. I promise you I'll try to be as succinct as I can. I represent South Georgia. I represent the entire coast of Georgia, all the way from South Carolina state line down to the Florida state line. Obviously, South Georgia, the southern United States, hurricanes, a big problem, natural disasters. I want to tell you the story of a fire that happened at a chemical plant last year in my district. It was a massive fire in Brunswick, Georgia, in Glenn County, and it resulted in evacuations. Luckily, WGIG-AM covered the fire live on air and provided urgent messages and updates from emergency officials to the residents. This was invaluable, as you can quite imagine. As I say, we've been through hurricanes. I've lived there all my life, and I know we depend on the emergency radio network for updates during the hurricanes, and certainly we depended on AM radio during this evacuation as well. Ms. Pam Cooper, I want to ask you, can you explain how and why the AM radio band is the most resilient band, which can withstand inclement weather events or fires like the one that we had in my district?
Sure. Because it works on an analog system, and because it's able to go past mountains, and we have this tremendous PEP process that was put in place after 9/11, where the country actually invested in AM stations, in radio stations, over 70 of them, sir, which carry the signal, and we're able to get this information to all of the constituents at any given time. Because of this radio emergency system, the President of the United States is able to reach 90% of the American
90%?
90% of the American population with instruction. Nobody else has that. They can alarm you that there's a fire. They can alarm you that something bad is happening. They don't have the ability to talk and give instruction to the American people. The reason you love that station, it's live, it's local, it's trusted.
Absolutely. Can you expand a little bit on the coordination between AM broadcasters and the local emergency personnel? I know, look, I see it in my district, and I encourage it, and I witness it, and that is the relationship that the emergency personnel and the AM broadcasters have.
Public safety community is very supportive of AM stations. I see the fire officials walking around and talking on the Hill, and that's a great thing. They are supportive. In Chicago, where we are, monthly, the police, the head of the police is on communicating with the public. Our fire commissioner, Colette Halt, a regular on our station. The great thing about AM, outside of a warning, is it is there at the beginning, the middle, and the end of these conversations and talking to constituents in these towns. That's something that this technology cannot do.
Great.
Can I just...
Sure. You're welcome.
So my understanding is that there's no reason that the primary or entry point stations need to be AM stations. In fact, they could be any transmitter, TV, FM, satellite, could be your primary source for alerts. And the mandate that Congress put on our federal government with the EAS system is that it must reach 90% of the population, which it's doing under this combination of different stations as entry points.
Can I respond
absolutely.
to that? One of the reasons why the AM is important, Mr. Shapiro and Congressman, is if you think back to 9/11 when the towers went down, FM signals are on top of these buildings. AM is a ground game, which is why the majority of them are PEP. So they are not in places where catastrophes could happen and maybe the signal gets lost. AM radio is the backbone of our ability to reach the American public in times of crisis.
Mr. Shapiro?
Well, I mean, the reality is you have to be listening to AM radio for it to tell you about the crisis, and most people...
And that's why you tune in when there is a crisis.
And when we hear all these statistics about AM radio listening every month and things like that, as a percentage of where you're putting your ears...
But I'm talking about emergency situations. I'm talking
right.
about the evacuation that happened when this chemical plant caught on fire.
I get it, and that requires that someone be manning that AM station, and one of the questions that's unanswered is how often that actually occurs, because a lot of this is done all electronically from remotely. So one question that Congress has never asked...
If we know there's a hurricane coming, then they're going to be there.
If if that
And
station
when that
is
emerged,
manned.
when that plant caught on fire, they went there. They made sure they were there.
And thank God they did, but that
Okay,
may not,
but
there
I'm-
are other cases where they were not there with train derailments and things like that, and the Ames station was empty,
But I
and
can
the
assure you they
citizens
got
didn't know.
there, and I'm sure you they got there pretty quick. Now, just one other point, and I appreciate your indulgence, Mr. Chairman, but I have to say on behalf of what I've been hearing that the interference, that the electric vehicles, and that it can't be fixed. Not only do I find that unbelievable, but I find it very disturbing in the sense that I'm amazed at the innovation that's taking place with EVs. I'm amazed at the progress that they've made. Now you're telling me that they can't fix the problem here with AM radios, the static? Nah, I'm not buying that. I think if you want to bad enough, you can fix it. And
Thank you very
With
much.
that, Mr. Chairman, I'll yield.
Yeah, gentleman yields back.